Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome to online learning. We're going to begin with our first lesson for this week, which is equivalent fractions and decimals, lesson 9.3. So if you will turn in your packet to page 351, it's week 1, lesson 1. Week 1, lesson 1. And the title of the lesson is Equivalent Fractions and Decimals. Okay? Our objective for today is to figure out how you can record tenths and hundredths as fractions and decimals. Let's begin by unlocking the problem real world on page 351. It says Daniel spent a day hiking through a wildlife preserve. During the first hour of the hike, he drank 6/10 liter of water. How many hundredths of a liter did he drink? Underline what you need to find. Underline how many hundredths of a liter did he drink? We're going to figure out how we can represent hundredths from the tenths. Okay? So one way is to write 6/10 as an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. So these models are also represented in your book or on your sheet on page 351. This model is in tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? This model is in hundredths. And I have 10 rows going across and 10 columns up and down. And we know that 10 rows of 10 is 100. This is like the 100 flat in our classroom. Okay, so I'm going to first model 6/10. In order to model 6/10, think about how many I need to shade out of 10 to represent 6/10. Yes, 6. So I'm going to shade 1, 2, 3, 4. While I'm shading here, you should be shading on your paper on page 351. 5, 6. Okay? 6/10. Now, 6/10 is equal to what? Out of 100. So what I want to figure out is if I want this model to look like this model and to represent the same amount, I need to figure out, well, if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows here. So what is 6 rows of 10? Okay, so I'm going to shade 1, 2, shade it in your on your paper. 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not going to individually count each box because I know that 6 rows of 10 will give me 60 hundredths. 60 shaded out of the 100 is equal to 6 shaded out of 10. Okay? And if you think about it as money, 6 dimes will give you 60 cents, or 60 out of 100, or out of one whole dollar. On your paper, they're showing you how to do the math. So over here, they have 6/10. And in order to get the equivalent fraction, we can multiply it by 10 over 10 and get 60 hundredths. And we'll do some more like this in a minute. But under where it says record, this is what you should have. Okay, another way is to use a number line. I have drawn my number line here and you're going to use the number line that's on your math page for the rest of this lesson. I will suggest you to draw out a number line on a separate sheet of paper, probably several number lines, because you will need to fill them in for some of your other examples. So out of 6/10, I have 0 ones because I have 0 whole numbers. So I have 0 ones. I gotta put my decimal. Tenths, I have 6/10. 0 hundredths. Okay, so Daniel drank 60 hundredths. 60 hundredths. Or another way for me to write 60 hundredths as a decimal, this is the decimal. I'm just going to transfer this here. Is 60 hundredths. And I will read this as 60 hundredths. Okay? I would never say 0.60 or 0.60. I will read it from left to right. 60 hundredths, THS. So this is the decimal form that I got from my place value chart. And this is the fraction in hundredths. That's right here. Okay? It says, explain why 6/10 is equivalent to 60 hundredths. So how is 6/10 equal to 60 hundredths? We notice in our place value chart that when we write in 6/10, the 6 is under the tenths, and we have 0 hundredths. So we have 60 hundredths or 60 hundredths or 60 hundredths. They represent the same amount. We can see it in our place value chart. We can see it in our place value chart. We can see it on the model. And we know that 6/10 is like 6 dimes, which is 60 cents out of 100 cents. Okay, so that is page 351. And where it says explain, you can say there are 10 hundredths in 1/10. So there are 60 hundredths in 6/10. If you're not sure how to write that in your own words, at the bottom where it says explain, and then we're going to get to more examples like that, which will help you understand it better. Okay? And this is our first lesson. This is our first time doing this. It's okay if you didn't quite get it. No worries. We have several more examples to go through. So let's look at the top of the next page, page 352. Jasmine collected 30 hundredths liter of water in a jar during a rainstorm. How many tenths of a liter did she collect? We're going to look at equivalent decimals, and remember when we did equivalent fractions in another lesson, equivalent just means equal to. So we're going to try to figure out an equivalent or a decimal that's equal to 30 hundredths. It says equivalent decimals are decimals that name the same amount. You can write 30 hundredths as a decimal that names tenths. Okay? In your book or on your paper, it says one way, write 30 hundredths as an equivalent decimal. We're going to show 30 hundredths in the place value chart. Again, this is a place value chart that I have drawn here. You're going to need to draw out some that only have ones, tenths, and hundredths in order to fill your decimals in, and it'll help you understand this lesson much better. So I'm going to show 30 hundredths in the place value chart, and then I'll figure out how to write 30 hundredths as tenths. With 30 hundredths, I have 0 ones, my decimal point, 3 tenths, 0 hundredths. So write it on your paper. 0 ones, 3 tenths, 0 hundredths. So 30 hundredths is equivalent to 3 tenths, because here's my 3 in the tenths place. And I can write 30 hundredths as 3 tenths. this represents the same amount as that. You see, if I cover this 0 up, 30 hundredths, it's 3/10. They represent the same amount. Okay, so then it says another way, write 30 hundredths as a fraction with a denominator of 10. Step 1, write 30 hundredths as a fraction. So 30 hundredths is 30 hundredths. And 30 hundredths written as a fraction is 30 hundredths. And I'll have that other way here. So where it says another way, step 1. And this is under another way. You should have 30 hundredths, okay, is the number 30, the word hundredths. And notice we have, since we're dealing with decimals, 30 hundredths is written as Hundredths. Okay? 30 hundredths. That's under step 1. That brings us to step 2. Okay, and again, we're on the bottom, step 2 on page 352, right above share and show. 30 hundredths equals 30 hundredths. In order to change this to tenths, we will divide by 10 over 10, okay? So if I want to change my hundredths to tenths, I've got to divide by 10 over 10, okay? So 30 divided by 10 is 3. 100 divided by 10 is 10. 30 hundredths equals the same as 3/10. If you think about it as money, if you have 30 cents out of 100 cents, you can have 3/10 or 3 dimes. Okay, so 30 hundredths equals the same as 3/10. We can write it as a decimal in tenths as 3/10. 0 ones, 3/10 in my place value chart, or 3/10, and that's a 1 and a 0. Let me fix that because I don't like the way that looks. 3/10. Okay. All right. Again, I know this is our very first time doing this lesson, changing fractions to decimals, and I assure you, you'll understand it more and more as you go through the week, getting more practice. What will really, really help you is making a place value chart like this. Now let's look at share and show, the bottom of page 352. Share and show. Okay. Share and show. We're going to write 4/10 as hundredths. 4/10 as an equivalent fraction. 4/10, in order to change a fraction that has tenths at the bottom, in order to get this 100, we're going to have to multiply it by 10 over 10. So if you do not have a place value chart handy and you need to change tenths to hundredths, multiply your numerator and denominator by 10. 4 times 10 will give me 40. 10 times 10 will give me 100. 4/10 is equal to 40 hundredths. 4 dimes is 40 out of 100. Okay, so these are equal. If I go back to my model on the first page and I shade 4 out of 10 or 4 rows of 10, that'll give me 40 out of 100 in my 100 model. So in order to change 4/10 to hundredths, the fraction then would be 40 hundredths. And this same problem, they have it by modeling it in a place value chart. So if I write 4/10 in my place value chart, I have 0 ones because I don't have any whole numbers. This is not a mixed number, it's a fraction. 0 ones, or tenths, 0 hundredths. Now this way you can clearly see, you're going to copy this directly here because this is the decimal. 0 ones, 40 hundredths. Okay, this is the bottom of page 352 under share and show. We'll practice a few more together. Okay, remember to go from tenths to hundredths, you're going to multiply by 10 over 10. And then when we get to hundredths to tenths, we do the opposite. We divide by 10 over 10. Let's look together at page 353. We're going to look at number 2. The directions say, write the number as hundredths in fraction form and decimal form. Hundredths. So remember, if you're going from tenths to hundredths, you're going to multiply by 10 over 10, or you can write it in the place value chart and it'll help you see it better. So if I'm going from tenths to hundredths, I'm going to do times 10 over 10 for my numerator and denominator. So 7 times 10 is 70. 10 times 10 is 100. 70 hundredths. If I'm not sure what that looks like, as a decimal, I can simply write it in my place value chart and I can see it better. So I have 0 ones, 7 tens, 0 hundredths. So as a decimal, 70 hundredths. It looks like this. 70 hundredths, 70 hundredths. Now I'm going to do 5/10 as hundredths. But here they're showing me the decimal, but it works the same way. If I fill it in my place value chart, I have 0 ones, 5/10, 0 hundredths, 50 hundredths, is the same as, I have it here in my place value chart, 0 ones, 5/10. 50 hundredths. This is the same as 50 cents. $0 or 0 ones, 5/10 or 5 dimes, 0 hundredths. 50 cents. 50 out of 100, 50 cents. Okay? Let's look at number 4, 3/10. If I'm going to change 3/10, to hundredths, remember, tenths to hundredths, we're going to multiply by 10 over 10. So I can do that in my head. I can say, well, 3 times 10, Miss Pittman, it's 30. So what is 10 times 10? 100. Good job. 30 hundredths. If I fill this in on my place value chart, I have 0 ones, 3/10, 0 hundredths, 30 hundredths. 3/10 is equivalent to 30 hundredths or 30 hundredths. This is 30 cents. 30 out of 100, 30 cents. 3 dimes, 3/10. Hopefully it's starting to make a little bit more sense to you. If not, no worries. We've got more examples on the next page, and this is what we'll be working on all of you. anytime, pause this video and work some problems, or reflect back on this video as you're doing more lessons throughout the week. Number 5, write the number as tenths in fraction form and decimal. Okay, tenths. So remember, if you're going, if it's already in hundredths and you're going to tenths, then you're going to divide by 10 over 10. Or you can simply write in your place value chart, and then you'll be able to see your answer. But if I'm going to go from hundredths, THS, get it right, 70, D, THS, hundredths to tenths, I'm going to divide. Okay? So I'm going to divide by what? 10. Divide. You got to do to the top and the bottom. Okay? So this will give me 4 tenths. 40 hundredths divided by 10 over 10 is the same as 4 tenths. When I write it in my place value chart, I can see 4 tenths. So I have 4 tenths and 4 tenths. I don't have to show that 0. So 40 hundredths as tens, because your directions say write the number as tenths in fraction form and decimal. So we're going from hundredths to tenths. Some people like to just cheat, and I'm going to tell y'all this, but don't let your parents see. Some people, if you have hundredths and you know you're dividing, if I do like this, look at those zeros, they're gone. If I'm going to remove a 0 from the bottom and the top, I can do that at the same time. If I know, since you just learned, that you're dividing by 10 over 10. But we're not going to sneak and do that. Instead, we're actually going to divide by 10 over 10, but we're going to do it mentally. And we're going to represent that we did it by getting rid of these zeros. Okay? So 81 hundredths, 80 hundredths, which is number 6. What I just did was, in my head, because I can do that, I divided by 10 over 10, and I ended up with, you see it right here, 8 tenths. Or 8 tenths. Okay? And I'm going to still use my place value chart. 80 hundredths is the same as 8 tenths. The light bulb should be shining, at least a little bit. All right? I'm going to do a few more examples with you, and then you will be ready to finish on your own. Okay? 8 tenths. And this is number 8 in the on your own section, because you're almost ready to be on your own. Let's look at number 8. The directions say, practice, copy, and solve. Write the number as hundredths in fraction form and decimal form. Boys and girls, Miss Pippin said when you're going from tenths to hundredths, you do what? Do you multiply if you're going from tenths to hundredths, or do you divide? And what do you multiply or divide by? I seem to recall right here, that I may have said tenths to 100ths, you're going to multiply by 10 over 10. And at this point, you don't necessarily have to write it out 10 times 10. You can actually do it in your head. They're not giving you a model. They're just asking you to do it. And so what I should see here, 8 tenths equals the same as 80 hundredths. Is that what you wrote? Notice how when you're going from 10 to 100, there's another 0 on each one of the, on your fraction representation and on your decimal representation. Right? So with that in mind, what about 2 tenths? 2 times 10 is 10 times 10 is. So we have 20 hundredths and 20 hundredths. Right? So all of these, we didn't have anything in the ones place because these were all fractions. But if you hop down to number 14 under the hot problems, it says write the number as an equivalent mixed number with hundreds. And you should recall that a mixed number is a fraction that is mixed with a whole number and a fraction. Now with this in mind, you think about if I'm going from tenths to hundredths, I'm still going to multiply my numerator and denominator by 10. However, I will not multiply my whole number by 10. So what I'm going to take this 1, I'm going to take this 1 and put it in my ones. And you can think about it as money. That's $1 for 10s, $1.40. I'm going to put my 1 in my ones because it's a 1 and this says ones. I'm going to put my 4 in my tenths because it's above the 10. I have 0 hundredths. Do you see this $1.40? 1 and 4 tenths is the same as 1 and 4 tenths, or they're asking only for the equivalent mixed number in hundredths. So we're not going to write the decimal. We're going to write 1 and 40 hundredths. I multiplied my fraction part by 10 over 10, but I just kept my whole number. 1 and 40 hundredths is number 14. Okay? So if number 14 is 1 and 40 hundredths, what should number 15 be? Nope, no ones, a 3. 3 and 50 hundredths. You should have gotten 3 and 50 hundredths. I bet you did. I bet on number 15 you got 3 and 50 hundredths because you're smart, that's why. So I want you to complete the rest of this page on your own, which is just number 15 and 16. You should be able to do number 17 as well and number 18. So stop for today on number 18 and you will be finished, finito, done. Check it off for today. The other sheets that are the exact same lesson perhaps will be much easier for you to work. If not, you can go back to these math book pages to help you, or you can send me a message on Remind or on Google Classroom. If you do not have your school email, please notify me on Remind because you have to log into your school email in order to get on Google Classroom. The code for Google Classroom is on your packet on the front sheet. I miss you all so much. I hope you have enjoyed this math lesson. I hope it helps you. Miss you, love you. Bye.